All right, Howard, Maxspect joining us yet again for this time Maxspect lighting.
Light, yes.
Let's learn some more about how Maxspect has approached lighting. I will tell you up front, there are about 4 approaches that they have taken.
Right.
We'll go through all of them. I think of the Ethereal as one, the Jump series is one, the Maxspect Eraser, and the Recurve. That you may not have heard of, may have. But we're going to go through a bunch of these different approaches and, hear a little bit about how they approach it. So number 1, the Ethereal.
Right.
Okay. So this one is still sold globally.
Yeah.
So most of the planet sells it except for North America.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while. We launched it back in 2015, I think. So it's been like 8 years.
8-year-old product.
But we still have some, fans that ask us for that. And there's one reason for that, because it creates one of the best looking blue color, when it comes to LED fixtures.
So the Ethereal is like a panel that has like a bunch of little pucks, and it'll look kind of like this, but a lot bigger, right? And so it'll have a bunch of little pucks on the bottom of it, and they're spread out in kind of like a circle. Yeah. Right. In fact, I think the first time I encountered it was the first time I met you in Inner Zoo, 2015.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's like
I think
a whole other lifetime, it feels like.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that spirit, one of the things you shared is like the Ethereal is before its time.
Right.
And I'm getting this as like a rhythm for Maxspect, that like they come out with some things before everybody's ready to hear the message.
Yes.
And then later on, like, oh, wish I understood then. So 400 to 500 nanometer light.
Right. When we designed the Ethereal back in 2014, right, we know that there's a lot of debate between T5s and LEDs, and we do a lot of, studying and researching into the color spectrum. One of the shortcomings of LED is that each individual chip creates a spike of the spectrum. Unlike T5, you get a really full coverage of different colors. So what we did with the Ethereal is that we used more LED chips in the blue color, from 420 nanometers all the way to 500. So we create what we call a full spectrum of blue colors in the Ethereal. So it looks really fantastic. Corals loved it. They got the light to do photosynthesis. But why it was ahead of its time? Because it's not bright enough for our naked human eyes. So it was received as light that's not bright enough.
The white is LED is what makes brightness, or green.
Yeah, but I mean, for corals though, they really love it. We've seen coral growth. The growth rate through the charts. And the color, the coloration from the corals improving. Just months after using the Ethereal. So yeah.
So just for you who don't know, the human eye is like 30 or sometimes more receptive to like green and yellow and whatever, those lights that kind of end up blending to make white, than they are blue, which is like par. Yeah. So it may look a little dimmer, but man, you're hitting the punch of the par. So it's counterintuitive to what your eye thinks you're seeing. I would say this, back then, I would have not thought of Maxspect lighting as cutting edge, because I was most familiar with the Razor, which felt like kind of like an economy line to me. Yeah. And it does fit that. We'll talk about that one in just a minute. But like, you guys are way before the time, because back then almost everybody was just royal blue LEDs.
Royal blues and white, cool white,
Now that we understand, like, that those were the cheapest at the time, and that's why you saw it that way. Yep. I wouldn't have known that Maxspect was spending the money to make it better and to better match the chlorophyll AAC2 perdinatin peaks that actually drive biology, not just show up as blue.
Right. So we were one of the first to use the 420 nanometers chip, in our fixtures, right? When everyone is using 440 royal blues and cool white, right? We use not only royal blues, but also 480 cyan blue, Okay, and then on top of that, we also use 420, which is, we were the few that do that. I think we were actually the first one to do that, but there might be others that I'm not aware of.
Though one of the reasons, like my own experience chimes in with that, because I remember testing the Razor,
right,
and seeing like just tons and tons of that deeper like violet blue in there,
right,
way more than anybody else was providing. And the question here when we saw it was like, I wonder if that's better. And people were kind of like portraying it as like too much UV or whatever. Now what I know is like, it's just all these other lights were deficient. And so it looked like it was more than everybody else, but appropriately so.
Right, and yeah.
They wouldn't have known that though 8 years ago.
No, people they are not they are not ready to look into that thing yet. They just believe that royal blue is all they need, right? But it takes time for for the hobbyists to pick up.
Always does. Ethereal was also a unique design to dissipate heat.
Yes, it is.
And this one kind of picks up that too, right?
Yeah, this is like a smaller brother of the Ethereals. But the original Ethereal basically like two aluminum plates sandwiched all the LEDs and all the circuitry in between. And then we have a center fan that draws air from top and bottom and then dissipate from the side. So it's actually really effective instead of having just one heatsink sitting on your LED chips. We have the whole fixture dissipating heat evenly. Yeah.
This is like a continued theme if you watch any of these series with us, is you see a unique design like attacking a challenge and then engineering to solve the challenge. Whereas, especially back then, most of the lights, or at least half the lights, off-the-shelf heatsink commodity item could be bought anywhere, and then just trying to figure out how to use it.
Right.
Where you guys are trying to find a challenge of I want it to be thin and attractive, and I want it to dissipate heat properly.
Exactly.
Design it from scratch.
Right.
Yeah. Also, in that relationship with the Ethereal, are you working on some ideas for a V2?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's been 8 years since we launched it. We are working on something that, we're kicking some ideas around, but we'll let you guys know in due time.
All right, if you got any ideas on what you'd like to see from him, chime in, because he's going to watch.
Leave it on the comments.
All right. The next one is essentially, it was an evolution of the Ethereal, which is called the Maxspect Jump line of lights. And essentially, it's an affordable Ethereal.
Right.
So tell us about this one.
Well, this is like I mentioned, it's like a smaller brother of the Ethereals. It's coming like that, a smaller size. It's only 65 watts, but for a lot of smaller aquariums and even up to like 4 or 5 foot tank, you can use multiple of them. So it comes with app control, cloud enabled. So we put a lot of time and all the experience with the Ethereals and other fixtures into this LED.
Yes, I think that 65 watts may not sound like a lot if you're following along, but I think that most people are buying way more than they need. If you're running like a SPS show tank, this is probably not your guy.
Yeah.
But if you're doing softies, you're doing LPS corals, which is about half the crowd should be raising their hand right now.
That's
this,
more than enough.
Yeah, you're doing a fish only with live rock Fowler tank. Like there you go. You don't need like some like unbelievably powerful to achieve that goal.
My own tank is an SPS dominated tank, and I'm using like 4 of this on my tank.
All right, combine them together.
Yeah, I mean, it's a modular design, so yeah.
Meet my words a little bit. All right, so in terms of that, also it comes, this is one of the things, like I say this all the time, but like we've polled people many times what the most important thing is that grows coral, colors coral, like hits the biology, all the things you think that people would get. The number one thing that always wins out as most important to all of you guys is an easy mounting solution.
Right.
Yep. I just want to be able to mount it easy, don't care. And so this thing right here comes with it. Yep. So not only like we're talking about the affordable Ethereal, most options out there, lighting options, require you to go buy a mounting solution separate. Right?
Yes.
This thing comes in the box.
Right. Well, all Maxspect fixtures come with the mount included.
Yeah, so
all the way back to, from the racers to the first Ethereal and the jump, always mount included.
I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But it also routes the cords in here.
Yeah, there's cable management there too.
Just clips on.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. Comes in the box, no added cost. So affordability in mind as well in this case. Maxspect Jump, also cloud enabled out of the box.
Right.
So you got an app.
Yeah, you got an app. You can remote control it. I mean, like myself, I always, go on business trips, right? So I can just take out my phone and take a look at if there's anything wrong with my, system back home, right?
I see like a little, like a cloud-enabled app, QR code on there.
Right.
Hope you find it. Okay, there's a regular and a blue version.
Right.
So what's the difference?
Well, when we first launched the white version, we figured out that there wasn't enough blue. A lot of customers saying that they want more blues, right? So like I mentioned before, if you get more blues in a fixture, it's not bright enough. So it's like a difficult situation that you cannot find a perfect solution. So right now what we do is we launch 2 different versions, one regular with more whites in it, and then the blue version with like the complete blue spectrum in it. So depending on what kind of corals you keep, you want to decide which one you would use.
Okay, so this is my take on the difference between these things, and this is not just to you, but to anybody. If you have corals that have a lot of natural color pigment, like, you turn on the white lights and they're red and they're blue and they're green, that's just natural color pigment. Like zoanthids come to mind, a lot of those things, and some mushrooms and stuff.
Acans too, acans and scallies, right?
Yep. Those things actually look really, really good under like white light because white is the combination of all colors and it's reflecting those colors back to your eye.
Right.
Now, if you are really into fluorescence, which is when light goes in as blue and then it comes back out as green, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now those people generally like the blue lights.
Yes.
And the reason for that is if I go all blue, like heavy blue, and I have like the other tank, which is mostly color pigments, it just looks really boring.
Yeah, you wash it out. You wash out all the
Everything
colors.
looks blue and kind of sucky.
Yep.
But if you have fluorescence, meaning when I went to the fish store to buy my corals, I bring my little blue light flashlight with me, and I only buy things that don't look blue when I shine them on there.
Yep.
Now the blue light is going to make that coral, that
pop.
tank just come to life.
Yeah, the pop that you're getting.
And so for those of you who are wondering, most people are like, well, how do I get a tank that looks like that? I just told you, it's when you buy the stuff, bring a flashlight and only buy the stuff that does that.
Yep.
That's the best way. Sometimes you can actually get it to morph that way, but better just to buy it that way.
Yes.
So there's a blue and a white. You got a little insight into which one would fit to you there. This is one of the, we just did a test on this, we did all the lights, and this was one of the widest blues for a cost-effective solution.
Right.
So it wasn't the widest blue range of everything that we tested, right? I was far from the narrowest, but if you consider the cost of the whole thing, right in the sweet spot of value, I think.
Right, yeah. You have to understand this is a budget light, We try to do our best, fit in all the blues to make it, not that spiky when it comes to the spectrum. So you get a little bit of, all the nano, the spectrum from 420 to close to 500. So you get a little bit of everything. But,
So one of the things that came out in our test is the lenses on it were a little bit more focused than I would use. And part of it is I think that we were testing on a 2-foot cube. And this thing isn't really designed necessarily to illuminate a 2-foot cube perfectly. So if it's covering like an 18-inch space, you probably get different results. But in any case, like these lenses were a little bit more focused than some of the other ones. But there's a solution. I just took it out of it. This guy right here.
This is the diffuser hood. It actually serves 2 purposes. We have some hobbyists, sending feedback to us saying that the light, depending on how high the height you mount the fixtures, sometimes they can get the blue light into the eyes, right? Especially if they have a silver, and then the distance from the tank. So they want to have some sort of a hood.
Oh, it clips in.
Yeah, just clip on it. Yeah. they want to have some sort of a hood to prevent the light leaking, outside of the tank. And at the same time, we got other feedback saying, why don't you have a diffuser? We want it to spread evenly into a wider, area. So we make this, product, like an add-on product to serve these two purposes.
This is actually a really cool solution because you're right. Like when you look at it, it will diffuse the light so the light is less focused and so it'll be more even spread coverage for the area. But it is a super common area, especially from a sitting position. So if I set these lights up on the tank from a sitting position and
you have to
kind of blind me in the eye, it's super common for modular lights. So these little hood here that can block some of that light so it's not shining in your face, man, is a really cool solution. And I'm going to be honest, when I tested this thing, I was reviewing all the data, I don't think that I gave the whole package in my mind. Like, hey, this is actually not designed for a 2-foot area probably. This light doesn't have the absolute best when I'm comparing it to things that cost 4 times as much. But that's probably an unrealistic expectation. But is it better than all of its peers? Absolutely. And I didn't use the diffuser.
Yeah, you didn't.
Right? And so
you may change your mind after you use it.
I know. I feel like it was like worthy of a round 2 test. Diffuser test.
Right.
And we did have an 18-inch cube for this at one point in time. Maybe we'll try that as well.
Oh, just one more thing about the diffusers. We actually have 2 layers of the diffuser. So, I mean, again, we're getting feedback saying that if you put a diffuser, you may end up losing a lot of the part, So we have 2 layers if if you want to use the diffuser but not losing a whole lot of that, lights, you can use a single layer, or if you want a better, diffusion results, you can use 2 layers.
So less diffused than your typical diffuser you would find on many lights.
But you get more light back.
But if you combine them together.
You can combine.
There you go. All right. Next is the Razor, right? So I'm going to be open and honest. I have never understood why the Razor series of lights, this format, hasn't been the most popular light out there. And you're going to have to come along for the ride because I think that there are reasons why this fits like the way that most people would do it. And maybe they just didn't know. I'm not sure.
Well, I think, if you look back like 8-9 years ago, this is the norm, right? People getting one fixture for the tank, but then the modular design comes along. There are always pros and cons on both, right? This one, even though that's really easy to set up, just one fixture, right? You don't have to set up an app, no master slave, no grouping. It's easy to set up. But then one of the cons is that it will be a little bit difficult for you to maintain your tank because it basically covers up a lot of areas, right? So some people they would prefer to use modular because it has more open room where you can maintain your tank easier.
Let's dig into why you might want this one though. Because I'm going to be honest. I'll tell you why I think it's the way it is in the end here. Okay, but number one, the Razor, the precursor to this one was you believe to be the first one out there that used 420 LEDs.
Yeah, it's the Razor, the very first Razor.
Again, I'm gonna chime in here and say that like it stood out to us. I remember this at the time, like, wow, this one has so much more of this.
Yeah, the pop, right?
Yeah.
You're getting that extra pop from the corals. And nobody knows why until we explain to them it's the 420. It's not really ultraviolet light. It's not, you have to go, under 400 to go into the UV. So that is like almost like the twilight zone, between the royal blue and the UV, the 420.
So I've heard people, like we talked about creating fluorescence a second ago. I've heard many people believe that it's a lot of that blue and not a ton of the white that actually causes the coral to create its own fluorescent pigments, to create its own other color chain for photosynthesis. So if you don't provide those colors, it will use that blue light and that deep violet light to create its own fluorescent
Yeah.
colors and its own energy structure.
Right.
Well, the jury's still out on that, but I tend to believe.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any other magic fairy dust.
No,
and I'm
no.
hearing this stuff from biologists at this
Yeah.
point. So, okay. So one of the reasons I think it's going to be should be more popular maybe than it is, and like by more popular, I feel like should be like number one. The reason for this is it's basically modules all designed into a single form factor. So, this is a fairly small version of this, but this is essentially the module that you would see in a lot of other lights.
LEDs, yeah.
Right? It's a little puck of lights that you would see in the bottom of most modular lights. Here's another one, right?
Yep.
And then as this thing gets longer,
You
there's
get
just
more.
more and more
Yeah.
of these things. Now, the only difference between this and the modular lighting is this is way lower profile and like one cord and has one mounting solution, which is legs that like go right into the edge. I think you could hang it if you wanted to.
Yeah, of course. A lot of customers just, suspension mounted.
Suspension mounted, which is, by the way, that gets around the idea what you were talking about, where like I want to get my hands in there. You
Yeah.
just pull that little cord and it zips
Yep,
right
yep,
up
yep.
and you let it right back down.
Yeah.
But it comes with legs on it. Like you said, all the Maxspect lights come with their own
Comes with a
mounting
mount,
solution
yes.
right out of the box. Okay, so like if you think about what most people are talking about, like I just really want it to be easy to mount, covered, right?
Yeah.
I like want, an easy solution. I just don't like. I got a 3-foot tank. I put a 3-foot fixture on it and call it a day.
Yeah.
Really, really easy.
You don't have to set up any, Wi-Fi's, just plug and play.
Okay, and then like it's like this isn't Wi-Fi like out of the box, right?
No.
Yeah, and so it's just like on board, you just wheel the thing in there. And I got to be honest, I think most people that have this will be more successful than the apps because the apps invite you to screw around with it.
Yeah.
This invites you to set it up right one time and then leave
forget
it alone,
about it. Yes.
Right? You'll be way more successful even if you do it wrong.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Corals want stability. They don't want changes. They don't want this one day and that the other day.
So I'm surprised that and I'll tell you why I think that it is in just a second. But okay, integrated mounting solution comes in it. Onboard controls has does have a localized app though.
Yes, it has.
How do you run it?
Well, you have to have a hub, what we call the ICB6, and then you can connect it to your fixtures.
So if you want to run with an app, you can. You got to buy the IC6 hub on the side. One cord, one low profile look. Okay, this is the reason why I believe that this isn't the number one, or a really, really common. You don't see it, especially on entry level tanks. Right.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why, but my suspicion is because it's the store, not the customer.
Right.
Because the store doesn't really necessarily want to stock 6 different versions of this in a giant box in a very limited amount of space.
Yeah, you nailed it. Modular design is easier to stock up just one single box for all tank sizes, right? You just add more, But this one, you have to stock different version of it. When we used to have 5 models, now we reduce it back to 3 models, but it's still 3 models, 2 more than what you would, order with the modulus one.
So as a store owner of sorts, not a local store, but I had the same problem with Giesman when we brought Giesman in one time ago. It was like, man, I really love this. I love the fixtures. They got T5s. They have all these different sizes of T5s, like 2 balls, 4 balls. Then they had the hybrid ones and whatever. But man, I had to have 2 foot, 4 foot, 6 foot, 5 foot of all of those things.
Versions,
and it was like, there's so much space, man. And then you can immediately see this is why stores, you don't see it. They'd have to dedicate the whole store to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really difficult.
And you sell 2 of them and then you're going to wait till you get Germany to send you again. So fixtures is a challenge, but I think it's more about what you guys want to buy. And so if you go to the store and say, hey, I would like to buy something like that, then they're going to bring it in.
Yeah, of course.
But
you have to also look at the price point too. One system can, basically all you need for your tank.
Okay, we got one more. It's called the Recurve here. But before we get to the Recurve, I actually want to hit this little guy because I opened up for the first time like 2 weeks ago the Maxspect Dice, which is like a 12-gallon nano tank that comes with a light. And it comes with this little guy, which is, you know, essentially kind of like the mini Ethereal, I guess, but the jump.
Tiny light little. Yeah. It's only 30 watts, but it's passively cooled, so there's no fan on it. It's only 30 watts. So it comes with in 2 different models, the blue regular one and the refrigerant light.
I'm going to butcher this, but I think that the Maxspect Dice that comes with this light, comes with some pumps and stuff on it, comes with a 12-gallon tank that looks really nice, is like $350. Okay, I haven't come across any nano like size tanks that come with a decent light and maintain $350.
Right.
Because the light ends up being one of the biggest costs.
Yeah.
Comes with a mount even for the light.
The mount included, yes, like all our fixtures. You have to actually feel that's the weight of this, you know, fixture to appreciate it. It's not like, you know, the cheap plastic ones, right? This is full aluminum built.
This is a controller for it?
Yeah, simple, but
simple onboard control.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the Recurve, which I think was way before its time. Again, that one, man, when did that come out?
2016, I think.
Okay, so the Recurve looked a lot like this, which is a series of modular lights inside of a fixture format, but also had these really cool fill lights on the side. And I guess you could have called it a LED hybrid.
LED hybrid, yeah. That's a way before, you know, before this time, I know. So,
I mean, that was back in a day where we all felt like there was like some kind of magic T5 fairy or photon, right?
Yeah.
Like this magic photon comes out of that T5 ball is somehow better than all other photons. Okay, and I mean, at one point we all thought gravity was magic too. They figured it out. But in this case, what we found that is T5s had this big wide blue spectrum, and that was what was magic about it. Right. It hit the chlorophyll A, C2, perdeninin. And so if we have the right LEDs in the fill light, instead of just putting in like 450 LED strips, you know, which maybe makes things look good, but doesn't actually drive the biology as well.
Right.
But that was happening back in 2016.
Yeah, we were trying to, you know, bust the myths about T5 when we came up with the Recurve. We managed to do that, but you know, it wasn't ready. The market wasn't ready yet. You know, people think it's like, you know, they don't want to, you know, risk doing something that they're not sure of.
All of my best tanks have been what I would describe as 3-point lighting, which is LEDs as the primary light, and then fill light. And the fill light can be T5s or it can be LEDs at this point. But like it's just way higher or way better spread distribution. Instead of just packing more modules closer together in a strip, is, you know, getting rid of all those shadows and stuff by providing fill light flanked on the sides. And that one you could actually like even bend. Yeah,
we can actually adjust the, you know, the coverage, you know.
Bend's not the right word. Adjust it, fold it in. Okay. I think of like a lot of this stuff, man, like people just didn't know.
No, there was, like I said, you know, we try to reach out to more hobbyists, you know, but it was way before its time and people just they're not ready for that. And, you know, you have to understand, you know, people spend a lot of money on the tank, right? Easily tens of thousands of dollars on corals. And they want to go with something that other people say is safe, you know. They don't want to be the first one to try something new. Some people would do that, but not everyone.
Well, they call it like the law of like, you know, diffusion or something. It's like 3% of the innovators and like 13% of the people, like the first users, and then the early adopters. If the early adopters like it, then everyone else
would use it,
except for the laggards. Those people will only give up the rotary phone when it stops working.
Yeah, well, that's why we were one of the few first LED manufacturer in the hobby back in 2009. We were the, you know, we were the first one that actually take the step, right?
All right, so there isn't a Recurve 2 in the works unless you want there one to be. So
Yeah, let us know in the comments, right?
Yep.
We want to hear from you guys.
Howard's got to go back to the team and
Yeah.
like fend off for all of your, or represent all of your desires. So
Right.
if that is something you'd like to see, which is kind of a modular puck design in a single form factor, one cord, fill light built in, mounting solution
Yep.
built in, wide blue spectrum out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
If that sounds like an attractive option to you, let Howard know
Yeah.
in the comments, and maybe he can make it happen for you.
Yep.
All right, see you in the next one.
Thank you.